of it all, untouchable, a new animal. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made. This is how legends are made.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another week of LSH Live. I am Jeremy LaRose. This is LSH Live. We are trying to help everybody be as good as they possibly can be. This week we're talking about show ring strategy. So what we want to do is we want to realize a couple things about the show pen, right? The first is that the judge really doesn't see that much. And I think that's a common misconception when I talk to people, is that they think the judge sees the whole class. So they're like, oh my gosh, I had this problem over in the top corner. But the judge never saw it. And the odds of the judge seeing it, especially like in a pen like this at the Congress, slim to none. So if you have a problem literally anywhere that isn't along this wall by the trucks, they're rarely going to see it. So you might get a little bit of an end look by this judge, and you might get an end look by the other judge. But if it's along this wall by the stands, odds are the judge is never going to see it. So this is a show that you really can kind of drag race your horse, and you can set it up along this wall and just get one good pass, and then you could spend almost the entire time along the back wall just stopped, and no one would notice. So there's a lot that goes into the show pen, and I think that people need to realize the judge doesn't know your horse on a good day or a bad day. So the judge only knows your horse as to how you present it that day. And that was a big turning point in my life when I realized that this is not a talent show. This is the judges placing what's in the pen at that time. So I had a lot of horses that were super talented, but not going around on their own, where we had our hand down and they could just do their job. And I was helping that horse through the class, and I was like, oh, I don't know why the judge didn't use me. It's their job to judge what's put in front of them that day, not try to figure out if your horse is the most talented in the class. So a lot of the time, the winner is not the one that's the most talented in the class, but it's the one that was presented the best. So your job as a rider is to get your horse somewhere where it can be comfortable and consistent and look like it's fun to ride. I think if you place the class just based on how much that rider had to fix or how much they picked at their horse, you wouldn't be too far off. So there's a lot that can be said for being able to just have your horse carry itself around. I think that's the biggest thing that you want to have, is that self-carriage, where that horse says, you know what, I got this, and you can just sit back and enjoy the ride. So we want to put these horses where they're comfortable, we want to put them where they're confident, and then we want to show them the same way. So kind of the theory that we go by is we say that the winner of the class is the one that performed the highest degree of difficulty and made it look the easiest. So what we mean by that is, if your horse can stay rolled up and engaged in its back end and not push forward, right? So be able to drive up with its hind legs, up to its front legs, and not shove forward with its front legs and reach for ground, and it gets round like that, that horse is performing a high degree of difficulty. Add in the fact that it's carrying your weight around, and then you're on a drape, and that's a big degree of difficulty jump versus somebody that's maybe handling their face a bunch, or a horse that goes on a little bit faster, or a horse that just doesn't step up behind. So we want to have the highest degree of difficulty and make it look the easiest. So typical class, you're going to jog into the pen to the left, you're going to lope out of the jog, you're going to walk, you're going to reverse, then you're going to lope, then you're going to finish at the jog. So that's kind of the way it goes. Those are the transitions you have to have. You've got to be able to make a lope transition from a jog to the left, and you got to be able to make a good lope transition to the right. So I want to check out this lope off right here. I think Casey Willis's horses are always super broke. And it's a good example of how to set your horse up for a lope. And again, like I talked about in the last video, not spurring our horse to lope off. So I go all over the country and I see people that just attack their horses with their feet to get them to lope off. And it's not a pleasure style of lope. So there is zero chance that your horse is going to lope off and look really good if you're spurring the crap out of it to get it to lope. So there's no way it's going to wait the way that these horses do if you're just rolling and raking your spurs and digging your spurs into it to lope off. So taking a look at this lope off, where does he start, right? He's got his hand to the outside of the arena. He's standing these shoulders up. He's providing a lane for them to lope through to the right. So he's going to pick his hand up to the outside, watching his judges for a minute here. And then he goes to pick up. He's going to swing his inside leg out away from his horse twice. So what he's doing there is he's got both spurs in, and he's going to release that clutch, right? So we talk about our legs as the clutch if you're driving a stick shift car. So we go to lope our horse off, we're going to squeeze both spurs, have that horse come up underneath of us, and then we're going to release our inside leg to lope out of that. So we're going to give that horse a way out, up underneath of us, and then forward to the right. So we want our left legs to go up into the air here. So the outside legs of this horse need to stride up, but the inside needs to go forward. So we're going to release that inside and just melt that horse off into a lope. And that's going to give us a lot better lope in the end than one that we just kicked and had our inside leg doing nothing. So he closes both legs, checks his judges, sets it up, and gets a good lope off out of that. So a couple things to take away from this. Number one, check your judges, right? So he saw that the judge was not paying attention. So then he was able to take his time, set this horse up, and then lope it off by just squeezing the trigger. Right? If you jerk the trigger on these horses, you're going to shoot them out of a gun. We want to just squeeze, ease them into that lope off. So both spurs in, checking his judges, asking for his lope off, taking his time. So there's a lot of time that goes into when he gets called for lope off and when he actually gets loping. So remember, you want to take your time in these classes. You're going to increase the difficulty of the class by turning it into a horsemanship class where you think you have to lope off immediately. Horsemanship is the art of loping off at somewhere. Pleasure is the art of loping off and making it look pretty afterwards. I think that's a big thing with these classes that I see. The most common mistake that rookies make in the show pen is they just rush the class. So remember to take your time, set your horse up. If you don't start good, it's not going to finish well. So just remember that if it doesn't start off the best possible lope that it can, how are you going to fix that? You're going to have to lift your hand. You're going to have to do something, and it's just not going to be as pretty a transition as we want. A good example of that is this video right here. So the judge calls for the lope off.
Lope your horses, lope please.
That's at the 7-minute and 46-second mark of this video. So we're watching here, we're waiting, he's checking his judges, he's setting his horse up, he's taking his time, asking for this horse to lope off, setting it up, making sure it doesn't go anywhere, and then he's finally loping. At the 8:05 mark of this video, he's loping. So keep that in mind, how much time you really do have in order to lope your horse. Also, the judge doesn't even see his horse until right there. So she makes a mark on her card. It took a full 20 seconds to get loping. She saw him for 5 seconds right there. She's going to check back because there's nobody in front of her. This horse right here, this red horse, is all alone in this class. The cool part about that, if your horse is all alone like that, is that there's nobody to judge your speed relative to. So we can allow our horse to move on as long as it's not rushing away. If it moves on a little bit when you're all alone, that's a good thing. You got more room, you got more space to lope your horse. It's like watching cars on the highway. If it's one single car, it's hard to get a read on how fast it's going unless it's going really fast over the speed limit. But if you have a string of 5 cars and you have one of them going 90 and the others are going 50, then you're definitely going to be able to tell. Even a car that's going 80 with other cars going 70 is going to be easy to tell. And that's a skill that police officers use when they watch cars going down the highway to check for speeders. So same rule applies here in the show pen. If you're next to other horses and you're moving a bit faster than they are, going to be way more obvious than if you're alone. So being able to get your horse open and in space and then show it where it can be comfortable, we can allow it to move on a little bit. Definitely a show ring strategy that we have. Even if it's just something as simple as don't try to fix it and mess up your own ride if your horse is rushing away a little bit at a show like this if you're alone, right? So if you have the whole rail to yourself, you don't necessarily have to make that correction and risk blowing your ride, right? If there's no chance the judge is going to see you anyway, or you're all alone and it's hard to tell your speed, you don't need to take that deduction and make your class harder than it has to be. The other piece that I want you to keep in mind, they loped from the 7:48 minute of this video to the 9:24 mark, so it's a minute 36 of loping. So when you go home and you work on your own horses, set a timer, figure out what that feels like. What does 2 minutes of loping feel like? Can your horse keep it together? So it's by being really honest with ourselves at home and really critical of our ride and what our horse is doing at home that we're able to show well with confidence. So you've got to be able to set your horse up. It's got to be able to lope around for at least 2 minutes at a time. So when you go out there and you practice yourself, set a timer on your phone, feel what 2 minutes is, because it's quite a long time if you're up there. But there's a lot of times in my life that I'll go out there and do something for 2 minutes and it's a half hour goes by so fast. So just remember that when you're putting the finishing touches on your horse, you've got to be able to lope around without touching him and have a consistent, smooth ride for 2 minutes straight. So you got to be able to maneuver through traffic. I need to be able to make lateral moves off my feet. I need to be able to reset and do things for 2 minutes straight. So that gives me a benchmark to shoot for when I'm at home. If I can't go around for 2 minutes, there's zero chance that I'm going to be able to show my horse effectively. That's it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much to all of our new people. That's been incredible, the growth of this. We're up to 50 people now. And all the new people that we've gotten this month, it's been absolutely amazing. So thank you so much, guys. Keep telling your friends about this. Keep spreading the word, and we will keep trying to bring you as much as we can. I hope you have a great week. Hope your horses are doing awesome, and we can't wait to see you in the next one. See you guys.
I'm stepping into fate. There is no time to waste. I've got that lightning inside me. This is how legends are made. Up on the throttle, victory is mine. Show you the harder the battle, harder I fight. I've come too far to quit. Step back, I'm going in. I'm cranking up on the throttle. This is how